Hegel. Hello and welcome to another episode of Fair 64 with me, your host, YemmytheFerret. Welcome in, everyone. I hope you're having a fantastic day, a fantastic weekend, or a weekday, whatever it is. This is the number one. No, it's not. This is the podcast about video game news, occurrences, first impressions, and so much more. Maybe this is the number one podcast hosted by me. Maybe. I don't even know at this point. But I hope everyone's doing fantastic. We got a lot to get to today. There was a state of play. There was some games that came out that I finished and started. We got a couple of news articles here that are pretty interesting, along with the coming soon section. So, why don't you sit back, relax, maybe if you're driving, pay attention to the road, but don't get lost in the sultry voice that is going to be... Well, no. Should I restart this? That's my question. No, let's just ride. We're going to start off with what was announced at that game showcase. As per usual, I got these out of order because apparently no website can ever put the stuff announced in the show in order. But we're going to start off with Foam Stars. Foam Stars had a small part in the presentation, mostly because it was announced that Foam Stars will be coming to PlayStation Plus Essentials the first Tuesday of February, meaning that if you have PlayStation Plus, the base tier, that you'll be able to play the game for no additional cost, which is really nice because I wasn't wanting to buy this. I wasn't even going to play it unless, I got it for free or it was at a steep discount. They didn't really show anything new off, I suppose. They just showed off, some stuff from the, I don't know, the Season Pass. There's some new skins and maps and whatever coming along. It's the basic stuff for a live service game. So yeah, that's coming on February 6th, 2024, and you will be able to download it day one on the PlayStation Plus lineup if you so desire. Next up, Dragon's Dogma 2 had an interesting trailer, I suppose. It was about 2 minutes long, and they showed off a bunch of different classes and builds that you can do. Of course, you're going to have to choose your classes, and you can mix and match things, of course. The gameplay trailer also revealed a new vocation called the Warfare, I guess is what it's called. The environments... this game looks great. Don't get me wrong. It just doesn't look like a game that I'm going to be super interested in, honestly, in my opinion, to me personally. But it does look like people who are Dragon's Dogma fans, looks like they're going to be getting exactly what they want, hopefully. And, they showed off a lot of, big creatures for the fight, too. So, yeah, we'll see how that goes. That's still slated for when? March 22nd, which is right around the same time as Rise of Ronin. V Rising, which is a vampire RPG, top-down RPG builder type game, was announced to be coming to the PS5 in 2024. This is pretty much a survival crafting game, but you're a vampire, I guess, and you go around this Diablo-type world that's a bit more cartoonish, I guess, than Diablo, and you just kind of do your thing, Once again, not really a game that's speaking to me personally, but if you're a fan of V Rising on PC, which originally released in 2020, or if you're a fan of these types of games, this may be something for you to check out. Dave the Diver. The PS5 and PS4 port is coming in April, and they announced during the State of Play that there is Godzilla DLC coming in May. So, I don't know what exactly the Godzilla DLC is going to do. It looks like Godzilla maybe comes around to eat some sushi. I don't know. But he is a imposing force. So yeah, from what we can tell, it's probably going to be something a little bit wacky, a little bit crazy, right? But we don't really know many details about it just yet. What we do know is about Dave the Diver in general. The PS5 version specifically is going to support the DualSense controller capabilities, including haptics feedback that offers the realistic feeling of hooking a fish and tugging on the line. Adaptive triggers will respond differently depending on which weapon you're using and what kind of combat or fishing experience. Wait, no. Making the combat and fishing experience more immersive. Jesus Christ. Alright, so that's that. Like I said, the main game is coming in April. The DLC is coming in May. Zenless Zone Zero will be coming around. They've been talking about this game for a little while, right? This is coming to PS5 sometime this year, I'm pretty sure. It was a really short snippet of information. It's also an anime game, so I'm not like super into that. These people also made Genshin Impact and Honkai Star Rail, which is definitely apparent in the art style and character designs. In a press release, they said, looking to push the boundaries of game design and action experience, the development team behind Zenless Zone Zero is now empowered by the cutting-edge technology and hardware capabilities of the PS5 to continue crafting and enchanting virtual world. A brand new immersive experience awaits as proxies embark on their adventure in New Eridu and engage in thrilling hollow battles. So, there you go. I guess if you're interested in that, there you go. They had actually announced 2 PSVR 2 games at this showcase. Now, I don't believe either of them are exclusive to the PSVR 2, which is a slight L for the PSVR 2. But then again, any new game is going to be happily held in my arms. Now, I know I haven't been really playing the VR lately, but one of these games is definitely going to get me to boot up the PSVR 2 again. The one that looks good, but it's not like super wowing me, is called Legendary Tales. The main thing about this game is the physics engine that it's running. It's like a dungeon crawler in VR, which does make it interesting, don't get me wrong. Essentially, there's like every character and enemy has physics associated with them, so you can cut off their head and grab their head and move it around and swing it around. You can forge new weapons and attach hilts to your swords, and it looks like it's multiplayer as well, like you can team up with other people, I think. But yeah, it's essentially like a dungeon crawler where you go through these dungeons, killing enemies and stuff like that. It looks more akin to that arena gauntlet fighting game that came out on like, I don't know if it was Oculus or Steam Index, is that what it's called? But yeah, I mean, the trailer definitely got more interesting as it went along because it stopped being kind of your basic hack and slash VR game, and then you had like powers and abilities, and it just looked a lot better as it went on. So yeah, I might pick it up, but it's one of those things. It's like it's probably gonna be like a decision that happens like the day of that it comes out. They didn't give it they did give it a release date, February 8th, so that's actually coming around pretty soon. There you go. The other VR game, which I'm much more interested in, is Metro Awakening. This is a VR game set in the Metro universe. And if you know me, you know that I love the Metro series. And this one, it looks like they're really making an immersive VR Metro experience. You got the guns, you got the gas masks, you got all that stuff. Now, they didn't show off a lot about the game, but it's definitely looking to be more horror related than action first person shooter related, like the Metro series is kind of known for. I know it's not entirely action. I know there's stealth and stuff in there, espionage, I suppose. But like that, the second game and Exodus are definitely more action focused, where it's like, okay, you shoot through a group of enemies and move to the next area, repair your train, whatever. So this game is going to take place before the events of the original Metro game. It'll be in 2028. You'll be playing as a person named Serdar, who is a doctor searching for his wife amongst the claustrophobic, irradiated metro tunnels of post-apocalyptic Moscow. As he ventures deeper into the metro, his courage and sanity will be tested by supernatural forces he encounters, and will set in motion the events that lead to his spiritual awakening as something else entirely. This is going to take fully use of the PSVR 2's sense controllers, the adaptive triggers, the headset haptics for increased immersion, etc., etc. So this is pretty cool. Love this idea. Love this idea, and I'm definitely checking that out when it comes around sometime in 2024. This was rumored, and I didn't talk about it last week because, like, unless a rumor is like really, really strong, I don't like to mention it. But it was rumored for a while that Sonic Generations was getting a remaster, which is, people are speculating because there was a Sonic sale on Steam and it wasn't on sale. The regular game, Sonic Generations, that kind of confirmed it. Well, during the State of Play, they did confirm that the Sonic Generations game has been remastered. It is set to come out sometime in autumn. Specifically autumn 2024. But the remastered version of this game does look a little bit better. I don't think the original game looked that bad, all things considered, from when we played it a few years ago. But the new thing about this game is it's now going to be called Sonic X Shadow Generation. So there's a whole new story, I guess, based on the antics of Shadow, who doesn't have his signature gun, but he is a pretty cool character still. But yeah, there's a whole bunch of new levels. I believe they're mostly like those third-person levels. I don't think there's any 2D that they showed off in here, but yeah, it looks pretty interesting. The rumors were true, and yeah, this is coming around in August, and I think a lot of people really like Sonic Generations. It's one of those games that really. I mean, I guess the main point of it was to embody what Sonic, the all the eras of Sonic, right? And I think it did a pretty good job at that. I think I gave it like a B tier at the end of the day. And it was actually one of the first, I think it was like the first Sonic game that I had beaten since like Sonic Adventures back in the GameCube era. So pretty exciting for people who love Sonic. And we'll see what the pricing all that is in the near future. Judas got a story trailer, no date for release just yet, but this is looking really, really good. I think this was my third favorite thing that they announced or showed off during the direct, because there really wasn't anything super new that they showed off in the State of Play, but this was definitely a highlight, just showing more about this world that they've made for this Judas game. Obviously, it's from the same people as BioShock, so you kind of know what to expect with, like, you have these supernatural powers that you equip, and you have really crazy guns. There were some really cool and interesting visuals in there, and some really interesting enemy designs as well. I definitely can tell that this is going to be, if you like BioShock, if you love BioShock, this is going to be your BioShock fix. And even me personally, who doesn't really like the original BioShock, but I do dig the other games in the series, I'm definitely excited for this. I think that it's going to be pretty cool. It's expected before 2025, but we'll see for sure when more information comes out. At the end of the State of Play, there was a stinger for information about Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. There's going to be a whole State of Play based on that on the 6th of February, ahead of its release on February 29th. So Square Enix will be sharing new gameplay details along with exciting news that you won't want to miss. So there you go. You can check that out on February 6th when that comes around, the big State of Play for that. Until Dawn is officially being remade. We're getting a Until Dawn remake, which is probably going to coincide with the movie that they're making. Obviously, I don't think that this game totally needs a remake. I think the original game looks really good, even nowadays. The problem, I guess there's not really a problem, with doing this, but the problem I do foresee there being is if you own the original game, you're not just going to be able to upgrade your game for like $10 or whatever. They didn't even show anything new coming to the game. Like a lot of times with these remakes, they add something new. They add like a new chapter. They add a new gameplay mechanic or something like that. They didn't show anything like that. They just showed like the remade graphics and stuff like that. We'll see how different it actually is. It doesn't look that different so far. It has been confirmed to be coming to both PS4 and PC in 2024, late 2024, probably around Halloween time, honestly. So yeah, we'll see. My prediction. I mean, what I said last week about the game, I would still like that to be happening. Using the adaptive triggers and using the microphone and using all that stuff that's built into the controller to really enhance that Until Dawn experience. At the end of the day, though, Until Dawn is really just a semi-basic horror game that really relies too heavily on cheap jump scares. So we'll see how faithful this remake is. But I wouldn't hold my breath for huge changes. Maybe just your normal remake style changes. And once again, we're at to see if they actually add something new to the game or something different, like maybe a new story, a small short story on the side, or maybe something different in there. I don't know. But like I said, the base game is average in my opinion at this point. I've replayed it enough times to really critique it. And if you want to hear my full critique of the game, there's a podcast episode on it's probably going to be on Spotify because I played it a couple years ago at this point. I think it's in the title though, where I really dived into Until Dawn and really tore the doors off and gave it my review of epic proportions. Rise of Ronin had a very nice deep dive at the state of play. They showed off a lot of cool stuff, including the environments you're going to be walking through. The game is a bit more open world than I was expecting, which is okay. That's okay. They showed off this paraglider thing, the grapple hook, I guess, horseback riding as well. They also showed off that the combat is going to be a bit similar to Ghost of Tsushima. So essentially, you have like a third-person perspective where it's almost like a mixture of For Honor and Ghost of Tsushima. Where in For Honor, you gotta kind of choose your stance based on what the what the enemy player in front of you is doing, and they need to react to what they're doing. And then the Ghost of Tsushima aspect comes in with the camera style and the basis of that. The nice thing about it is there is a lock-on system. So unlike with Ghost of Tsushima, you'll actually be able to lock on to enemies and make sure that you're hitting the ones that you want hit. There's also plenty of stealth mechanics that they showed off in here as well, being able to like surprise attack and backstab people. They show off some interesting enemy design as well. Like there's this guy with like claws that sneak attacks you, which is kind of crazy. He kind of looks kind of crazy, kind of like a Freddy Krueger, Wolverine, or whatever. There's a wide range of weapons, both ranged and bladed. So you got like the musket gameplay in there, which looked awesome. I love that. I really liked using the musket in Assassin's Creed 3 of all games. And it looks like they did a good job at making like a gameplay style for the musket and like a pistol and stuff like that. You'll also be going through some major battles back in the day, like the Battle of Toba Fushimi, which looks pretty cool. So Rise of Ronin, it's also got some. It seems like it's got some Souls-like mechanics in there as well, as Team Ninja is known for. But it's also got a lot more story, a lot more depth. Looks like the open world is going to be pretty nicely fleshed out. Definitely cannot wait to play this on March 22nd. Stellar Blade finally has a release date for the 26th of April. This is also looking really, really good. It seems like Sony is really busting their load at the beginning of the year this year, with Helldivers, Stellar Blade, Rise of Ronin, all coming out before summer. And of course, other games mixed in there as well that I didn't mention. This one is looking graphically really impressive. It's also looking combat-wise really impressive as well. There's one character who, like, the main character doesn't really have boob jiggle physics at all, and I'm only saying this because it was very apparent in the game that this one character who is kind of small-ish. I mean, kind of looks like a child in my opinion, like a young teenager. She's got like very exaggerated breasts, where the main character, who has a voluptuous bosom and is looks like an adult, has like minimal boob physics on it. And I'm not one to be like, oh, no boob physics, no buy. But it was a bit much for this character who looked younger, and I know that's kind of like I don't know if that's like a style of that, but it's one of those things that's kind of off-putting at time, when they just really show it off. Like, it doesn't make any sense in my opinion. That being said, the game does look really good. There's lots of different outfits that she can wear. There's lots of different. I guess there's a bunch of different like upgrades. Maybe not as many weapons. Seems like you're gonna be really focusing in on like the blade combat. But the enemy designs look great. The character designs look great. The story seems pretty interesting. And yeah, they gave it a final release date of April 26th, which definitely gonna be picking this up day one. Looks really good. And if you haven't seen the box art yet, the box art is really, really good for this game. It's one of those things. It's like box art has like kind of been forgotten in the past, in these past few years of like digital games rising up. But box art is still one of my favorite things about getting a game. I mean, I'll talk about it later, but Like a Dragon Infinite Wells box art is really good, and the Stellar Blade box art is also really good as well. Score 1 for beautiful box art. All right, so the Silent Hill people talked about a free game that they were releasing called Silent Hill: The Short Message. I'll talk about that more in depth in a little bit. But they showed off the game a little bit. They talked about some of the stuff that went into it, and they said that it was releasing the same day, which is pretty cool. Pretty cool. No matter what I think about the game going forward, that's pretty cool that they released a free game with this depth of graphical fidelity onto the system for free. They haven't really done this since PT. We know what happened to PT. They took that down. But this will probably stay up for quite some time, honestly. And then after that, they showed off some combat trailer for Silent Hill 2 remake. It looks pretty good so far. I think the enemy design looks interesting. I'll give it that. Like the enemy design looks a lot different than the PS1 era games. They definitely gave them more detail and stuff like that. Yeah, I think the game's looking pretty good. I'm not like fully convinced yet because Bloober Team has been kind of iffy here and there in their history with these kind of things. But yeah, we'll see how it goes when the full product is revealed. They still don't have a release date for it yet. They just said it's still in development. So there you go. And then finally, for the state of play, the biggest stuff was Death Stranding 2 had a huge On the Beach trailer. Actually, the game is going to have a subtitle of On the Beach, so it's Death Stranding 2 On the Beach. And it's a Hideo Kojima game, so you kind of know what to expect a little bit. Just wild, wacky things. Things that you can't really explain. I'm sure even if you play the game fully, you won't be able to explain the game fully. Kind of like the original Death Stranding. There's this new like puppet character who has a lower frame rate in the game, which I thought was a pretty cool thing, especially when you see it in motion along with the other characters. So that's pretty cool. He seems to be a fun guy to hang out with. When they showed off the gameplay, I mean a little bit of gameplay, it does look very similar to Death Stranding 1. But if you've played Death Stranding 1, you know that the game builds upon itself from just being kind of walking to vehicles to combat. So it's one of those things that you can't just judge a book by its cover for this one. Midway through the presentation, they showed that Sam's brother was back or something like that, and I believe he's voiced by Troy Baker or acted by Troy Baker. And he kind of looks like the Crow, if you know what the Crow is. Or he also very reminds me of the Joka baby at times, but he's more like the Crow because he's got like a musical side to him. He like plays his guitar and does riffs to fight enemies, which is, I mean, it was a pretty cool visual. Seeing this full sequence really confirms like this is Death Stranding 2 for sure, because the original Death Stranding game also had very long cutscenes. Sometimes you would play the game and you would have like 2 hours of cutscenes and maybe 15 minutes of gameplay. So it's one of those things that's like it's still very much in that mixture of game versus movie structure, you know? But yeah, so far it looks very interesting. It seems very interesting. I'm very excited to try this out. I definitely need to finish the first game before I play this one, but we got time. This is not coming out until 2025. So there you go. In a press release, they said, embark on an inspiring mission of human connection beyond the UCA. Sam, with companions by his side, sets out on a new journey to save humanity from extinction. Join them as they traverse a world beset by otherworldly enemies, obstacles, and haunting questions. Should we have connected? step by step, legendary game director Hideo Kojima changes the world once again. And then right after that, Hideo Kojima came on stage, or well, into a room with the I guess lead of or president of PlayStation, Sony of America, and they talked about how they were going to be partnering up for a movie or something like a interactive game movie type thing. And after they were done talking, the camera pans out. It zooms all the way out. You see the Columbia Pictures like I don't know area, the Columbia Pictures facility, and on the front of it it says Physint, Physint. I don't know if that's an acronym or short for something, but Physint seems to be like a spiritual successor to Metal Gear, which they talked about how Kojima kind of was, I don't know, urged into making a new tactical espionage game. It sounds like it's gonna be. It sounds like it's gonna be interesting. I'll give it that. If it's gonna be like a interactive movie game, I don't know. But it's a brand new original IP, a next generation action espionage game. Sounds like it's not gonna be coming out until sometime far after Death Stranding 2. So we'll see if it's on the next console for Sony. But it's pretty interesting, pretty exciting, I would say. After that, though, that was it. They ended the show after that with a farewell, and there was nothing else to say at that point. I did feel like the presentation was lacking a little bit of something, a little bit of hushpa in there. You know, it seemed like it needed. I don't know if it needed like another like a final stinger, like something to really bring it home. You know. No matter how big or small it was. And I know the Death Stranding 2 stuff was a lot. They went over a lot. They showed a lot. But I felt like it was just missing something right at the end to be like, and here's one more thing. But instead it was just like, okay, tune in for the Final Fantasy VII showcase, on the 6th of February, and we'll see you there. And it's almost like they decided to move the Final Fantasy stuff back because they thought that Death Stranding 2, Death Stranding 2 was the talk of the town, but they thought that Death Stranding 2 was going to overshadow it. I don't know. But the main thing is I just felt like it was missing a little bit of something. The other like the Nintendo Directs and the Xbox developer Directs, they feel like they have a bit more personality to them. You know, they actually talk to developers in a candid way and all that. This one, the state of play was really good, don't get me wrong, but it did feel a bit corporate at times, which I know PlayStation and Sony is a corporation. Like, I'm not blind, but sometimes putting a little bit more finesse, putting a little bit more character in there is what makes these bounce, these go higher than what they are. So, in terms of like grading it, I would give it a high B plus, maybe an A if I'm feeling generous. But a high B plus is where I kind of landed, and I thought that was a pretty good score for it because it had a lot of good stuff in there. Had some stuff I wasn't interested in, of course, but the main crux of the show was good, and definitely worth checking out if you haven't yet. Okay, let's move on to the final review for Prince of Persia: The Lost Crown. Prince of Persia: The Lost Crown is the new game in the Prince of Persia series. We haven't seen a game in the series in quite some time. We know that there's some things in the works, like a remake of Sands of Time. But Prince of Persia: The Lost Crown, it flips it kind of on its head, right? It decides to go into the more Metroidvania route rather than just an action platformer, third person action platformer game like the other ones in the series. And I do think that change is fairly good. Even though they don't nail the Metroidvania aspect 100%, it's still a pretty good Metroidvania that is definitely worth playing. Even if you're not a fan of Prince of Persia, the Metroidvania elements are are good. They work pretty well. The progression through the game gives you more abilities that allows you to get through more places, much like any Metroidvania that you play nowadays. The one thing that I was struggling with, where they kind of lacked, is sometimes you go through a section and you see an area that's like, oh, I can go there, I can see what's there, and you go there and you see what's there, and there's nothing there, or there's just a enemy there, or there's one of those time crystals that you break them and it gives you a little bit of currency. And I just thought that was a bit bland. Sometimes it was little bit disappointing because some of those places that you need to get to are a bit more, albeit not too challenging, but a little challenging to get to, or a little sneaky how you get to them. And I found myself finding this a lot, and maybe I just didn't unlock like a side mission for that area just yet, and I hadn't gotten there yet. I don't know, but the main thing is the most egregious one was one where I went down through like a pit, and I just landed in like an empty room. There was nothing there, not even a placement, like a place for like a puzzle or anything like that. And there was a breakable wall on the left side. And I'm like, oh, here we go. And that just led you back to the start of the pit drop. And I was just like, what am I missing here? Like, why is there nothing here? And I combed this game pretty well. My final completion when I had finished the game, I'm still playing it, but a final completion of when I finished the game was about 70% of the map explored, which is pretty good. And I did try to explore all the nooks and crannies that I could before moving on with the story, and that would of course lead to some dead ends or some things that I couldn't do, but eventually I did a loop around and get to those things. The one thing that's nice about the game is if you do run into something that you can't get through, you can leave down a little marker that takes like a screenshot of the area and lets you know like what you missed or what you need to do there, or what ability you might need. If the thing is a little bit too high, you need the double jump, or if you whatever, which is really nice. I used that quite a lot when I got to an area that I couldn't advance through. I just need to remind myself, like, okay, I need to come back here eventually to finish this up. And I thought that was a really nice idea for the game. It's something that I think that a lot of Metroidvanias should probably do going forward, is allowing yourself to not just take a mental image in your head, but take a snapshot of the game, have it be like something that you can upgrade and stuff like that, and let us use it in the game to mark our places, and let us give ourselves reminders of what we need to do, where we need to go. There's a lot of different enemies in the game, and there's a lot of nice combat styles in the game. I was not expecting the game to go as hard as it did with the combat. The combat starts off a bit basic with its opening little tutorial section where it's just like, okay, hit and parry and jump and whatever. And it does grow very interesting by the end of the game, especially once you start to get the little different transversal techniques. So not only can you juggle enemies and shoot them with arrows and do heavy attacks and shield breaking attacks and whatnot, you have these special abilities that you can earn through going through the game and defeating certain enemies that allow you to do these special abilities that do massive amounts of damage, or they can heal you, or they can push back enemies and give you some room, or they can make you have extra damage and extra health for a limited amount of time, stuff like that. That takes like Azura, is it called? The Azura Surge. So you need to earn that by hitting enemies and defeating enemies and stuff like that. Every enemy that you defeat drops currency for you, time crystals. You use those to buy new medals or new necklace pieces. It allows you to upgrade your weapons, upgrade those medallions as well. Medallions is what they're called. I apologize. And the medallions are nice. You have a necklace, and you can upgrade the necklace to have multiple slots, which they give you buffs and stuff for the game. I've been using them pretty consistently throughout the experience. And they also sometimes give you like an extra hit at the end of your combo. They sometimes give you extra damage, extra arrows, extra damage to your arrows, make it easier for you to pick up time crystals that are scattered around the floor, stuff like that. I was hoping that there was going to be more skins in the game. The skins that I unlocked so far were fun and fine, but I was really hoping there was going to be more skins in the game. And maybe I just haven't found all the ones I can get yet, but as of right now, it just seems like they could have put like a skin in some of those areas I was talking about, where it's like, okay, here's a skin in this area instead of it just being an enemy, have him guarding something, I don't know. The story for the game is pretty good. I enjoyed it. It's got a little bit of a twist here and there, which you can kind of see coming if you know basic story plot elements, you know. Even like the final twist of the game wasn't like super crazy, but it was still fun. It was still a fun story. I think they did a good job with the writing and with the characters. I enjoyed all that, and the lead up, the build up to some of like the boss fights and stuff in the game were also really good as well. There was one boss fight in particular. We were going through like this frozen like tidal wave, I guess. Like there's a bunch of ships that are shipwrecked and they're frozen in time because of the fierce storms, and there's people fighting on the ships that are frozen in time. And the build up to the boss fight for that area was going through this whole section where you're going through like these ships that are broken apart, and the water is gushing through, and you can use the water as a platform at times, and there's like these jellyfish that you can jump on top of, and sometimes they'll shock you if you stay on them too long. It was just a really fun section. I thought it was really imaginative. There's another section where you go like down into the sand pits, and it's a bunch of like sand everywhere, but it's a really nice visual style. There's like these pink purplish crystals everywhere that you can't hit, or else you'll get reset to the last point of you standing on normal ground. There's these like centipede type enemies or characters or whatever that eat the crystals, so they kind of help you out along the way. But if you touch them, you get instantly killed. Yeah, a lot of stuff like that is just some cool vistas and visuals to find. The basics, like the basic area of the city that you're in, is not like too visually distinct. Same thing with the forest; it just feels like any old forest in a Metroidvania. But it's the special areas like the ship area and the sands area, and there's an ice area that really do capture a nice visual. There's also like a library or an area of knowledge, they call it, that also has a very nice visual style to it as well. So they did a good job with most of the game's visual styles, just like they did a good job with most of the Metroidvania mechanics in the game as well. Um, Other than that, the game is just basically what you expect. It's got collectibles, it's got currency, it's got side quests. It all runs pretty well at a steady frame rate. I did run into a mission with a pirate king or whatever that would glitch every time that I talked to him, meaning that I had to shut my game off and restart it and lose progress. It was a side mission, luckily, but that was pretty annoying. Getting to that and doing all this work and then having to redo all that work twice because I was like, oh, maybe it won't happen this time. Well, it did. It happened all 3 times I tried, and hopefully they'll update the game soon. I don't think they've sent an update to the game yet for that issue, at least. I know that they're working on it because they are working on an update, but they haven't released it yet, so I can't do that mission yet, which is unfortunate. And the only other critique that I have for the game is a lot of Metroidvanias like Fist, Forest, and Shadow Torch, or even Metroid or whatever. The transitions between the areas is a nice smooth transition. Obviously, earlier Metroid games aren't going to be super smooth. They're going to be like blackouts and then fade-ins, right? And there's sometimes in Prince of Persia where you go between two areas and it just cuts the black and fades in from black, and it's just very jarring, especially with the way that they set up the level design, where it looks like it should be a smooth transition where it should just zip over. But instead it blacks out and blacks back in. It's the most awkward when you're jumping up into something or platforming onto something and it does that, which I just found kind of weird that they didn't smooth that out, make it a smooth transition. I feel like maybe doing that would have helped with that criticism that I have for the game right there. Yeah, other than that, maybe there's not enough shortcuts to get around some of the more annoying areas in the game. There's a couple areas that I found pretty challenging for platforming, all things considered, but there wasn't a shortcut you could unlock for it to get around it for when you go back through the areas, and I just found that a bit tedious because now instead of me going through this area once and getting a shortcut so I don't have to, redo that if I go back looking for collectibles. Now I have to go through all that platforming again, which does kind of turn me off from doing like the 100% in the game because I had to go through some of these areas that I found pretty difficult, all things considered. And the game does do a good job of steadily making the game more difficult. It's just that there's some platforming segments that are pretty tough and pretty annoying, and you can't just zoom past them with a quick shortcut that you can unlock after doing it once. A little bit annoying in my opinion. All in all, though, I think Prince of Persia: The Lost Crown is a good game. It's a good Metroidvania. Not the best, of course. I think that there's other Metroidvanias that do a better job, but it's still a very good attempt for a Ubisoft original. It's actually pretty high quality, which does give me hope for the future of the company, of course. I know some people are staying away from this game due to it being a Metroidvania or being a side-scrolling game or even being in a Ubisoft game. So maybe if it comes, maybe it's on if it's on sale, give it a chance. I think that it definitely deserves the chance, and I think that the more people who buy this game, it'll show Ubisoft what people want. Kind of like with Paper Mario. People telling people, people are saying, "Hey, buy the Thousand-Year Door because this is the Paper Mario we want. If we get this game to sell better, this is the Paper Mario experience we're gonna get, right?" It's kind of the same thing for Prince of Persia, where it's like this is a Ubisoft original. It's based off an IP it's kind of been redone to really change up the formula. And I think more innovation like this, like there's a lot of great visual flair in this game, and there's lots of really cool animations and nice set pieces and stuff like that. And it's not just like an open world game. It's not just like a third person action game. It's not just a collectathon. There's so much more to it. And I think that showing Ubisoft that that's kind of what we want as a gaming collective would kind of turn their other games into that direction where it's like, okay, they don't have to be like the basic Ubisoft formula of open world third person action game with tons of collectibles and a huge map and whatever. I know there's people who like that kind of stuff. I personally liked it for a while, but then kind of fell out of it. And yeah, it's just one of those things. It's like, okay, but, let's see what we can do. Let's see what innovations we can do inside of Ubisoft. And this is the first piece of that puzzle, I think. So if you want to, check it out. I think it's a pretty good game. I'm giving it a 4 out of 5. And I think if you like Metroidvanias, you should definitely check this one out. Thank you for listening to this final review. Next up, let's talk about what I've been playing this past week. Okay, so Silent Hill, the short message, I pretty much played it the day after it released, or maybe a couple days, like a day or two after it released. And I'll start off with some positives for it, because I do have a fair amount of negatives. The main positive is, for a free-to-play game, a free game, it's like a 2-hour long game, right? Which is a decent amount for something that's this graphically nice. And that's my other positive thing, is the graphics are actually really nice in this game, and also a lot of the audio design is really good as well in the game too. But unfortunately, the whole of the game is just not it. There's a whole ending sequence that's very good. It kind of feels like a Slender Man type thing where you're grabbing the objects randomly to unlock a door, and the creature is following you around the whole time. It kind of felt like either like an Outlast or a Slender Man type deal, right? And I thought that was really good. But the rest of the game is really a mixed bag. And I think the main thing that really makes this game not worth playing, in my opinion, is just just how long it takes to get to something that's actually interesting, right? Like the game as a whole is dealing with these serious subject matters, like these very serious subject matters of depression and suicide and abuse and whatever. And it's all kind of layered on top of each other. But the main thing is that it just doesn't feel right in the game. They don't give it time to breathe. And if they had fleshed this out to a full game, I think we really would have seen, one, a lot better pacing, but two, a lot better writing. And that's the other thing that really irks me about this game, is the writing and the voice acting is just abysmal. For the subject matter that they are trying to present and trying to have a serious tone with, the dialogue is just laughable in this game. And it makes me feel bad because, obviously these are very serious topics, right? I mean, you don't normally hear people laughing when you say, "Oh, I'm depressed and I'm suicidal," right? No one really laughs. I mean, unless it's like a comedian on stage making a joke, right? But if I went up to someone, whether in text message, phone, in person and went, oh man, I'm so depressed. I think I'm going to end it all. That's not funny. But this game, the way it presents its dialogue and the way that it's written is just so unintentionally funny at times. There were moments where I was just like bursting out laughing just because of the way that the character was saying the line of like this dialogue that's like supposed to be super serious, but they say it in such a way that just sounds off. Like it's just so awful. It's just so like such bad voice acting. It's just so it doesn't have the punch that it needs, and that's the problem. Is throughout the entire game, minus the ending, I was laughing, and you're not supposed to be fucking laughing during a game like this with this kind of subject matter. I'm just saying. And the fact that they could not fucking get better writing in here, better voice actors in here for this subject matter, maybe re-record some of those fucking lines. I don't know. It was just unintentionally funny throughout the whole game. There's just these moments where a character will just like they'll be like talking to themselves in a monologue, and all of a sudden they'll be like, "Oh my god," or something like that. It's just funny. It just makes me laugh. Or like she's doing like you're doing some like you're doing some investigation, like you can click on things and she'll say something, and it'll just be something really super stupid and generic, like, "Oh my god, I never knew." And it's like, are we like watchmojo.com or something like that, like with this tone of voice? And it just made me start laughing, even though the letter itself was like about how sad she was, and this person was getting bullied, but the delivery of the lines is just so fucking laughable. "Oh my god, I never knew." Like, what are we doing here? And there's just so many moments like that where the delivery of the lines and the acting is just so funny. It almost feels like a parody of the genre. It almost feels like a scary movie or something like that. The scary movie. Funny movies. It's laughable, and like I said, it makes me feel bad because what they're saying is like super depressing. Like there's one part where the girl is so sad she's gonna jump off the building, and like the dialogue leading up to it is just like she's like doing like a fake crying, and I was just like kind of giggling to myself the whole time, and then she does it, and it's like, oh, that's not funny. Like, yeah, no, it's not funny, but the presentation of the fucking dialogue before that was laughable. It was legitimately laughable. And once again, like I said, it's just so, it's crazy. It's absolutely insane. And they released this to the general audience for free. And the other thing that's really fucking annoying is they made such a big deal about this is running on the PS5. We're utilizing the PS5 to its best. It's only on PS5. The Silent Hill short message is only on PS5. And the only fucking buttons you use in this game are X and the joystick. Everything else is non-essential. There's literally two inputs that you ever do, which is X and moving the joystick. There is nothing else. There is no in between. There's nothing else in this game. They don't use the adaptive triggers. They hardly use the fucking haptic feedback and the rumble. They use the speaker on the controller, but it's really annoying. Like when the monster's close to you, it makes like this like staticky scratching sound, and it's just kind of really annoying. I had to turn the volume down on my controller because it was annoying the significant other in the next room. It was so fucking loud. Like, it was just so annoying, and just like the lack of, I don't even know, like lack of anything, but just the amount of effort put into this game seems to be a lot for like the graphic style and some of the gameplay sections, but for the most part it just seems lazy too. At the same time, the writing is lazy. The FMV segments where it's real actors just seems lazy too. Like, they could have done much more with that as well. The presentation of these different subject matters are lazily done. There's some sequences, once again, that are pretty cool. Like, there's this spiral sequence where you're walking through the school and it turns into like a spiral. The ending of the game is decent. It's actually got some good like intense moments in there when you're running away from this monster. But also it has like this really poor dialogue at the same time that's kind of messing up the entire fucking experience. The main character of this story is so fucking unlikable, and some of the reasoning for the reason why she's depressed, suicidal, etc. are just so fucking atrocious. Like, the main reason that this character is depressed and suicidal is because her friend, who she likes, you know, kind of like loves, you know, kind of likes, you know, meets this other girl named Maya, who she then becomes more of a friend with, and the main character feels like she's being pushed away, even though she's totally not. Like, every single letter you read, every single line of dialogue between her and this person on the phone, it's like, no, she's not. But she's like, oh, I'm so worthless. I'll never be as good as Maya. And it's like, I get it. Like, sometimes that is like the main, like the you know, it's a very thin thread, a very thin needle for why someone is depressed and suicidal. Obviously there's some moments like that. I just feel like in the context of this game and how poorly the game is written and acted, it just becomes annoying. It's more annoying. You don't like the character because she's just whining the entire fucking time about shit that she can totally work out herself. And there's one point where she's like, oh yeah, I'm on my meds. I don't want to go to therapy. It doesn't help me, or something like that. And the other person, like twice in the game, is like, hey, did you think about going to therapy again? And she's like, it doesn't help me. It doesn't help someone like me. I don't want to do it. It's just, I don't know. It's such a muddled and weird subject, like message in this game. Even the ending of the game just seems real disingenuous. You know, like all of a sudden everything is just better. It's just like I almost want to say don't play this game, but I think there's some stuff in here that is genuinely good. Like they definitely did some good stuff with the visuals, and the ending of the game is good. Like the actual ending, like event that I was talking about with like the Slenderman stuff. But the rest of the game is just kind of atrocious. Like there's some segments here or there that are definitely worth playing, but a majority of the game is either laughable or just has a weird muddled message or presents these things in the wrong light, and that's kind of unforgivable. So I do say, like, yeah, it does some good things here and there, and the things that it does do is you know, is good. I can't fully recommend this game at all. It's just one of those things that's really it really irks me at times, and I've talked about it already, but I'll say it again. I should not be giggling and laughing with the message inside the short message, okay? I should not be giggling and laughing when these characters are talking. You either get better voice actors for the American, you know, the English version of the game, or you just keep the game in the native language, because this is not it. This is not it. If this is the future of Silent Hill, there's some good stuff in there, sure, but fucking try harder with some of this shit, because this is unintentionally hilarious at times. It's intentionally intense at times, but it's mostly just a mixed, muddled bag of messages and awkward dialogue that really doesn't go anywhere at the end. So Silent Hill: The Short Message, although it's fine, it's less than fine. It's actually not really worth playing in my opinion, which is why I gave it a 2 out of 5. So there you go. Definitely will not be showing up in any top 10 games list that I can think of, unless you're a fucking moron. Okay, let's see what's next on my agenda here. Ah, yes, Like a Dragon: Infinite Wealth. I decided to get this game after it was getting some much high praises, and I thought it's time that I finally try the Like a Dragon series, because the first game came to PlayStation Plus, and I was like, yeah, you know, I like the idea of like a turn-based Yakuza game. I think that might be kind of cool. And I know that they changed the game series to mostly be Like a Dragon, because the Yakuza is a bad gangster thing in Japan, so they're moving away from that, even though they still deal with that Yakuza subject matter. So Infinite Wealth, if you're going into this game expecting it to be POW in your face from the get-go, you're going to be sorely disappointed, because it takes about 2 to 3 hours to really get into the game. There's a lot of build-up a lot of story going on. They're picking up from the last game and showing where these characters are for this game. They're giving some background, a history on the characters themselves. There's a lot of amusing dialogue and sections in there, though, as well, which I thought really helped with the pacing. Because there's some moments where it's just kind of like, oh, it's a lot of dialogue, and you're kind of like learning about the what's going on. And then there's other sections where it's like you're planning a date with one of the characters, and you're choosing between the two different like styles. Like one's a more like laid back kind of macho style, and then the other style is more like what does the girl want? Let's be more open minded, right? And I think that Infinite Wealth also has some pretty interesting things to say in it. Like there's one moment very early on where the main character just like starts sputtering and blurting out things, and all of a sudden he's like, "Will you marry me?" And like there's a whole dialogue about that, and like how like okay, it's that's kind of weird. And there's a whole section where he's talking to his friends, and they're like, "Oh, you've done it now, buddy." But the main crux of the game doesn't really get started until all the members of the original cast kind of lose their jobs because of a social media personality doing a story on the main character, and because he's ex-Yakuza, and there's like all these like misinformation things in there, which is kind of reminiscent of like real life, where people people who do their research, maybe they do get it wrong, or maybe they get fed misinformation and stuff like that. So essentially they all lose their job because they're all associated with them, so they decide to go back to being heroes, and they grab their weapons, they grab their gear, and they go and try and take down a new Yakuza syndicate that's taken up residence in the area. And that's kind of where the game starts going. Like, you get tons of combat, you get story elements in there as well. There's a lot of stuff going on, and that's kind of where the game like really started to hook me. As the combat started to get much more interesting. The enemy designs, like the enemies actually became threatening. You actually had to use some tactics to get around them. And even though I'm not yet to the Hawaii section of the game, I'm very excited to eventually get there. I just was not expecting there to be this much build up. Although I should have guess that, because Yakuza games do like their slow build-ups. But essentially, I mean, the combat is one of my favorite things about the game so far, because unlike the regular Yakuza games where you can kind of, it's a beat-em-up essentially, you have like this turn-based style where you have different moves, and you have like an area that you can kind of walk in, and depending on how close you are to an enemy or to an object, that'll affect how much damage you do. If you take an object, you can really bash them with the object and do like a free move after that. And there's so much going on with the game, and it's very interesting. It's very fun, and I have not beaten a Yakuza game yet, so I'm hoping that this will be my first one, my first Like a Dragon game to finish, because so far it is really piquing my interest, and I can only guess as to where it's going to go, how we're gonna end up in Hawaii. It's one of those things that's just very. I'm just waiting for that. I'm just waiting for the big thing to happen so I can start really exploring a town. And the main map that you get for the start of this game is relatively small, which tells me that they're saving it for Hawaii. They give you the big map to explore with a lot of stuff to do. So that's kind of how far I am right now. Can I recommend it? I can, but just go into this knowing that the opening of the game is a bit long and drawn out, and it doesn't really get going until about 3 or so hours in. Even though there's interesting stuff going on, like I said, there's some funny stuff going on, I will give you the big asterisk, which is, hey, it takes a bit to get the build into it. And you can skip around that stuff, and you can skip any cutscene, any dialogue that you want. I found the dialogue to be pretty funny, though. I thought that there was a lot of fun dialogue in there. Even though not every dialogue situation is interesting, there is some funny stuff in there that I enjoyed, and I thought that they did a good job with the build up to the main action for the first part of the game. So there you go. The main thing to come away from this is that I'm excited to play more. Get farther in it. I've been trying to beat more games from my back catalog that I don't have on my streaming games list, and we got a couple of games done this past week. I made a New Year's resolution, as you may or may not know, at the beginning of this year, that I wanted to beat more VR games. So what I did is I charged and booted up my Oculus, my original Oculus, and I played a bunch of games. Well, I played 2 games that were on my list that I had not finished. The first one being Sniper Elite VR, which was a decent VR game. Essentially, it's set before the events of Sniper Elite 4, before Carl Fairburn gets there to Italy to help out there. You essentially play as like a Italian guerrilla force who has a sniper, and you're the sniper, of course, and you're just sabotaging the different German elements in there. You're sniping and stuff like that, and by the end of it, you destroy a U-boat so that the Allies can invade without the threat of being sunk by this German U-boat. And I thought the acting was pretty good. I thought that the like gun animations were nice. I thought the variety of guns was also pretty good too, especially as you get farther into the campaign. There's some new snipers you can get. But I think the graphics themselves not great per se. And I know this is a pretty early VR game, so I'm not gonna kick it too much. But the graphics not that great. But I think the main thing that really bugs me about the game was the AI. The AI was essentially brain dead. They did not know what they were fucking doing the entire time. They had their pathing, and they fell over and died when you shot them. But if they hear your shot and they go to investigate, it's the most basic AI ever. You can be standing like literally 2 steps away from them, and they will not notice you sometimes. Other times, they'll notice you from like behind doors and boxes, which was really annoying. They also like didn't really know how to flank and move up. Like they didn't know what they were doing. Like you could literally just stand there and just shoot, and kill these guys who are standing out in the open. It's like, what are we doing here? And then once again, after they're done like investigating an area that they heard a gunshot from, they'll just go back to what they were doing, and it takes like 2 seconds for them to do that. The investigation takes like 2 seconds, and they go back to what they were doing. And it was just very. It was kind of amusing, but also like I would like to see better AI in this game. Like they definitely need to do the levels of Sniper Elite AI that we know and love, from the series. Um, I also thought that the level design was a bit dull especially towards the end. They definitely didn't know what they wanted to do with the game. I liked it that they combined like like the SMG segments and the sniper segments kind of together. You can kind of choose how you want to play the game. I didn't feel like the stealth was that good at all. I thought the stealth was pretty broken for the enemy, not for you. For the enemy, they literally could hear you silently kill someone with a silenced well rod. It was just so weird. But on top of that, like the level design really was not that great, all things considered. Like there were some fun levels. Like there was one level where you were like in a bell tower and just like sniping for as long as you can. It was actually pretty fun. I wish that they would just make a game mode out of that. And there was another level where like you planted C4 in a bunker and you destroyed the bunker and you whatever. But then there was a lot of missions that were just like, here's an open area, shoot to your heart's content. Here's a person you need to protect, shoot to your heart's content. Here's an area that you got to stealth through, shoot to your heart's content. Of course they bring in like the staples of Sniper Elite with like the X-ray kills and the masking your bullets with noise and stuff like that, which is fun. I don't mind that at all. It's just the levels got really dull and drab by the end of it. And the other kicker was that you had to earn stars in each level, and if you didn't have enough stars, you couldn't advance to the next level. So I found myself having to replay some of these dull and drab levels several times to get the other stars that I was missing, which also really hampered my enjoyment of the game. So in the end, I'm giving it a 3 out of 5. It was fine. It was average. It was decent, but it's just missing some crucial things in there that really elevate the game. So there you go. Also, I finally finished the last few levels of Shooty Fruity, which is one of my favorite VR games, still one of my favorite VR games. Surprisingly, the PSVR 1 version of the game runs better than the Oculus version of the game. I played through the entire game on Oculus. I played about halfway through back when I originally got the game for the Oculus, and then I finished it up recently in the past 2 days here myself. And I really started to notice the bugs that the game has on the Oculus version of the game. Lots of like weird frame rate drops at times, some slowdown here and there. There was a table that like the fruit could get stuck in when they were jumping around, which was really stupid, but it opened up for some easy kills, I guess. All in all, though, the game is still really fun. Like it's definitely worth getting. I think Shooty Fruity is one of the best VR like shooter games out there. It's got a pretty basic idea of just shooting killer fruit, but you know the execution is where it's really at. You know, it's got a lot of charm. You know, it's got like that lady over the intercom who is like that monotone manager who's telling you what to do, right? And you know, I like, you know, part of the game is also like scanning groceries. The more groceries you scan or the more things you do correctly, you get the better guns in the game. So I think that's also a nice thing as well. So all in all, Shooty Fruity is like a 4 out of 5. It's still really good. Still one of my favorite VR experiences. And I do recommend picking it up if you have like an Oculus, or if they eventually do port it to PSVR 2, that'd be great. But right now it's kind of stuck on the older platforms. The funny thing though, once again, is that the PSVR 1 version of the game probably was the best running version, in my opinion. So there you go. And then finally, I recently, just today that I'm recording this, finished up Skyforce Anniversary. This is another game that I got it like in 2016. I got through most of the levels and just kind of was like, this is really fun, I'm going to get back to this, and then didn't. So today I kind of went through a bunch of different levels and finally finished up the game. It's a shoot 'em up. It's pretty fun. I really enjoyed this one. It's got some weirdly negative reviews for some reason, but I think like the graphic style, the gameplay, and the bosses are actually really good for my tastes in shoot 'em ups. So you know, I think it's got some quick action there. There's some weird difficulty spikes for sure that I wasn't a fan of, but I will say that for the most part, it's a really cool Skyforce Anniversary, really cool game. Really enjoyed it. I you know, it reminded me a lot of like the 1942 or 19XX games where you play as like that World War II plane and you're going through like the different environments. Those are some, you know, those are games from my childhood that I really liked. My dad had like this modded arcade cabinet that could play a bunch of different arcade games, and those ones are the ones that I always was playing. I really enjoyed playing them. And this one definitely was reminiscent of that. So maybe there's some nostalgia talking here. But I decided to give this one a 4.5 out of 5. I think it's a really good shoot 'em up. And definitely check this out. It was on PlayStation Plus a long time ago. Back in like 2016. So, you know, you might have it on your list. So definitely check it out if you got it in your library. I think it's definitely worth playing. So there you go. As for streaming games, we're still working on stuff. We are going to be finishing Power Wash Simulator this coming week. We are on the last level, so we will be finishing that. Right now, we're working on Bayonetta 2 and Neo still, and I'm gonna try and get some stuff moving. I only finished like 3 games in the month of January on stream, which is a bit disappointing for me personally. I know last year we also started off a bit slow. And with the Ferret Cafe being brought in, where I don't stream on Thursday, I stream at night on Thursday to do those. I might add in another stream day, just kind of keep things rolling, keep things moving. So there you go. All right, let's move on to the next part of the show, which is what's in the news. Okay, the Rift Master, the new PDP guitar, which is going to be compatible with Fortnite Festival and Rock Band 4, which actually just stopped doing DLC, so kind of a late bloomer here, has been fully revealed. It's coming in spring 2024. The device is set up is going to support 36 hours of battery life on a single charge. It's going to feature a thumbstick behind the guitar, along with both right and left-handed play. It will support both right and left-handed players, of course. There's also a 3.5 millimeter audio jack on it as well. It'll be able to be folded in half for storage purposes. The packaging looks pretty nice for the Rift Master. It's got that, you know, as I've talked about before, it's got that black look to it with the gray faceplate on it. The buttons, I've heard that they're soft presses, which sounds a lot better than the clickety-clackety of the old Rock Band guitars. It's got both the top frets and the bottom frets, kind of like how Rock Band 3 or 4 has their guitar set up. Has a whammy bar, of course, and whatnot. So I think this seems like it's gonna be a pretty decent guitar if you're looking for one to play like Clone Hero, Rock Band, or Fortnite Festival on. It definitely seems like it's gonna be worth trying out or getting. There's been no price tag yet associated with this, so obviously talk about that when it comes out. But as of right now, it looks like it's going to be a really nice piece of hardware. And actually, one of my favorite content creators who does like Guitar Hero 100% and FCs and stuff like that, Asai, he was playing with this guitar the other day, and he was giving it a lot of praises. And that's that the he's a pretty prolific person on in the Guitar Hero and stuff universe. So there you go. On the box, you can see that there's a PC and a PS4 and possibly an Xbox on there as well. But of course, this is the PlayStation packaging, so it must be PS4. It just kind of looks like an Xbox One, but there we go. Yeah, looks like it's. I mean, looks like it's gonna be pretty cool. I'm definitely gonna think about buying one of these, especially if the price point is like $100 or so bucks. If it's more than that, that'll be unfortunate, but we shall see. All right, The Last of Us 3 is probably happening at some point in the near future. In the Grounded documentary for The Last of Us Part 2 remake or whatever, Neil Druckmann, the lead of The Last of Us and Naughty Dog, said that they were struggling to find a concept for a third game for quite some time, but they finally kind of nailed down what they want to do for a third entry. Things recently changed when they were able to kind of get like a story that they wanted going and build a continuation off of what Part 2 set up. In the documentary, he says, as exciting as The Last of Us 1 and as exciting as The Last of Us 2 is, it's its own thing, and yet has this through line of all three. So it does feel like there's probably one more chapter to the story, which is cool. Now, this is not 100% confirmation. He does says probably and other things in there a lot, but I mean, everyone kind of expects there to be a part 3. Everyone kind of expects this to be a trilogy, so I wouldn't be super surprised if the third game is going to come around. I know that it's going to be a struggle getting people to kind of come back to the Last of Us series after the Last of Us Part 2 still has so much discourse for some reason around it. Like, there's still people who come to Discords and just randomly start blurting out, like, I hate The Last of Us Part 2. It's like, we're not even talking about that. I was in a Discord conversation about a week or so ago, and someone randomly just came in and was like, I fucking hate The Last of Us Part 2, blah, 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 blah. And everyone's like, well, I mean, most people who I was talking with were like, I mean, I don't know where this is coming from, but I thought it was good. I thought it was great. I thought it was fine. I gave it my game of the year, the year that it came out. And I stand by that. I think that Last of Us Part 2, even though it needed to shuffle around its story a little bit, give us more time with Joel before they execute him with a golf club. I think that it's a great game. And I think that I truly think that if they had given us those segments in the past with Ellie and Abby at the beginning of the game to kind of build the relationship and whatever, and then reveal that Abby is the daughter of the doctor or whatever, who got shot by Joel, I think that it would have been such a more impactful moment for him to get his head crunched in by the golf club, right? And they wouldn't have to have. I mean, I know they needed a stinger for right at the beginning of the game. I know that's why they did it. But I'm just saying, it's a great game, a near perfect game that just needed the story rearranged just a little bit. And I was hoping they were going to fix that in the remastered version, but they didn't. So. That's my main. That's like the only thing that I really don't like about Part 2. I think everything else is great about the game: the graphics, the sound design, the combat, most of the story elements, characters and stuff like that they introduced. So going into a third game, I do feel like it's going to be a bit difficult because we're missing Joel entirely. He can't really do another Joel thing. Tommy, I mean, what's Tommy going to do in the game? At the end of Part 2, he was pretty old and limping around, so what are you gonna do with him? Maybe it'll be a story of Ellie trying to find what's her face, her girlfriend or whatever. That could be it, but yeah, they I think they needed to I think they needed to either introduce a few more characters in the Part 2 or not kill off as many characters in Part 2. But I guess that was the whole theme of the game was that theme of revenge and all that. So we'll see what happens, but as of right now, Interesting, not completely 100% confirmed, but maybe we'll see something in the future about that. Speaking of Sony stuff, the developer behind Bloodborne Kart got a legal notice from Sony saying that they needed to change some of the designs of the game, and they need to scrub the Bloodborne branding from the game as well. And this comes after I said in the last time that I talked about this. This comes after I said that this is getting too much publicity. This is getting too much publicity, and something's going to happen. It happens every single time that a fan project is pushed on media, whether it be on Push Square, whether it be on IGN, whether it be on Konami, whether it be wherever. When it starts getting pushed by popular media, that's when something happens. And what do you know? A month before this game was supposed to come out on the 31st of January, Lilith, the person behind the game, the developer behind the game, got contacted by Sony's legal team, and she doesn't have to scrap the project entirely, thank goodness. So I guess that's a nice thing. But she does need to rebrand the game and change some of the character designs, like Lady Maria and stuff like that that's in the game. And it's honest, like, yeah, you kind of expect it to happen. But when Bloodborne PSX got a lot of praise and had some publicity, Sony didn't do anything about that. But for some reason with this, it had it had to be looked into legally, and maybe it's because Bloodborne Kart was planning to be released on itch.io instead of just being like a free download on her website. I don't know. That might be the key difference here that we're looking at. But so Lilith just said that they're gonna have to delay the game a little bit. They're gonna have to change some stuff, and it'll be out in the next couple months. So it's honestly really bizarre that these really talented developers, like the Bloodborne PSX game was so full of talent and passion, right? It was just a really good like demake, quote unquote, of the game, a PS1 era kind of game. And I feel like the PS1 era stuff is in right now. And I think like Sony should honestly hire his studio to and officially release this. I think it would be a really good opportunity, one, for the developer behind the game, and two, I think that it would be like a fun little concept. Give the Bloodborne community something to play that's official, But instead, they they are deciding to force her to rebrand and redesign some things, which is not terrible, right? It's still going to be the same game we probably know that we're going to get with this Bloodborne Kart thing, but it's kind of annoying, one, that it was like a month before the release of the game, and two, that all these companies gave her interviews and talked to her and showed the game off on their websites just for PlayStation to get wind of it and then have to contact her about it. So once again, if there is a really popular or really good fan-made game that uses copyrighted characters, maybe don't show it off on your very popular website that gets thousands and thousands of clicks every single fucking day. Just saying. All right, here's some good news for Burnout fans. Stellar Entertainment, the people behind Burnout Paradise Remastered, kind of were teasing a new car crashing game in the franchise. Yesterday, as of recording this, the team sent out a post on Twitter saying, "Our way of giving you kind of weird and insider intel." What does this mean? One way of giving you kind of weird insider intel about what we're working on without actually telling you what we're working on. And the bosses still haven't issued any takedowns. Happy days. And they showed a picture of POV, you're about to be rear-ended, with like a cat in the corner. So it doesn't really say anything per se. Yeah, this seems to be a new game in the Burnout series being worked on, I guess, behind closed doors. They haven't gotten official approval for it, I guess. But the Burnout Paradise Remastered was pretty good, all things considered. So it definitely would be worth giving the IP to that studio. We haven't had a Burnout game since Burnout Paradise Remastered. So I think it's definitely time for this arcade game racing legend to come back. This team also worked on Need for Speed Unbound, which is a pretty highly praised Need for Speed game, and the Hot Pursuit remake or remaster, which was fine. So there you go. Interesting development there. We'll see what happens. Mass Effect is officially collaborating with Destiny 2 in February. The crew of the Normandy are going to get some armor skins for your characters, along with a Normandy-type ship and a Normandy-themed little drone guy and vehicle. So if you can't tell from what I'm saying here, is that N7 is coming to Destiny. The N7 crew. So you're going to get armor inspired by Commander Shepard, Garrus, Liara, and more. So we don't know who else. Probably Tali and maybe Rex or something like that. And this is going to be coming out on February 13th to the game. I don't think they said how much this is going to cost, or if it's going to be like an in-game event or something like that. Who knows? But this crossover was a long time coming, and it's kind of shocking that they haven't teamed up with the sci-fi legends of Mass Effect before, but maybe it's just to generate some hype for what they're working on at BioWare for the next Mass Effect game. We'll see. We'll see. The Normandy bundle will be available at the Eververse store in-game, along with the Alliance Requisition bundle, which consists of Enhanced Defense Ghost Shell, Alliance Scout Frigate Ship, and Alliance Drop Ship Sparrow. So there you go. You can also get into character while running dailies. There's going to be some dailies themed around Mass Effect. There you go. Pretty cool. All right. Spec Ops The Line has been removed from Xbox storefronts, and I believe PS3 storefronts as well. Spec Ops The Line was a critically acclaimed third-person shooter that delved much deeper into the PTSD effects of war than any other game in the shooter franchise. It came out during a time when shooters, modern shooters especially, were very popular, and it definitely left a mark when it came out, and still to this day. A representative from 2K said that the title will no longer be available on online storefronts due to multiple partnership licensing expiring. It's also removed from Steam and PS3 as well as Xbox. So that's really unfortunate. It might just be a music thing, honestly, because I know there's some licensed music in the game. But they're saying multiple partnerships has expired, so maybe multiple music has been expired, or maybe something else. I don't know. If you have a physical copy of the game, it's going to be your best place to play it, of course. I do have a Steam version of the game, so you will be able to download it if you own the game, but you will not be able to purchase the game anymore. They also shared a message on the community forums saying 2K would like to thank our community of players who have supported the game, and we look forward to bringing you more offerings from our label throughout this year and beyond. Maybe this means that they're going to be doing like a re-release of the game. Who knows? I think that's, if there's any game that deserves to be remade, it's kind of like why not Spec Ops: The Line? This is a brutal depiction of fighting, of war, of kind of like a war, modern war kind of thing. And I think that giving this the remake treatment would definitely, one, bring it back into the limelight, especially during a time of war, and two, would make people remember how good this game is. So there you go. Super Nintendo World is officially coming to Universal Florida in 2025. Of course, we've already seen screenshots of them building the place, but now they officially have a date for the opening of the Nintendo World section of Universal Resort and Studios in Florida. It'll be opening as part of Universal's brand new theme park, Universal Epic Universe, which is due to open in 2025 as well. The park is going to feature 5 worlds, all focused around different Universal brands, with Super Nintendo World being one of the 5. The concept art looks pretty cool if you've seen that. The concept art for the Nintendo area is kind of stellar, really. And the basic layout of it looks kind of cool too. Looks like there's going to be a roller coaster associated with this one, along with some sort of like shipwreck area. Looks like they are going to build in the Donkey Kong area to the place as well instead of adding that on later. But the main thing is that roller coaster. You know, the Nintendo worlds in the other regions like California and Japan really don't have like a fast, like eye-opening, like like a really cool ride like that. Like the Mario Kart thing from Nintendo World of California looks kind of cool, but you know, it's not like the most cool thing ever. And then of course the Japan one has like that slow-moving Yoshi ride. So this is definitely going to be something different. So yeah, it looks kind of cool. If you want to see the concept art and stuff like that, you can go over to the official Nintendo Twitter account. That showed it all off, or you can watch the Universal Orlando Resort YouTube video called "Introducing Universal Epic Universe." All right, Embracer Group has laid off 97 employees, and they've also canceled the next Deus Ex game. Eidos Montreal, instead of working on a Deus Ex game, is going to be working on an original franchise. So that does mean that, you know, that 2,000 employees laid off in the first month of the year just missed this 97 extra people here. Eidos Montreal came out on Twitter with a post saying, "For the last 17 years, our team at Eidos have worked on some of the most beloved brands in the industry, combining deep storytelling and innovation into unique games. We have created memorable multi-award winning experiences that we are proud of, and we know our team members have put their heart and soul into them. The global economic context, the challenges of our industry, and the comprehensive restructuring announced by Embracer have finally impacted our studio. The difficult decision has been made to let go of 97 people from development teams, administration, and supportive services. We are working to support all impacted personnel through this transition. These highly talented, highly experienced people are entering the employment market, and we want them to find their next projects and help them doing so. As we navigate these difficult times, the well-being of our team is our priority, and the continuous commitment to creating games that players will be able to enjoy in the near future. To our players, it's oftentimes not just the games, but the game makers as well that we all celebrate and admire. Our commitment is always to making the best games for our amazing fans, and even with this restructuring change, we continue to fight on and deliver those awesome experiences to share together." So yeah, along with that, whatever the next Deus Ex game was going to be has been canceled. It was in development for about 2 years before it was canceled. Embracer also cut, if you don't recall, Crystal Dynamics, people in Crystal Dynamics, and also Free Radical closed down completely, the developers behind Time Splitter series. So it's just one of those things that's just like, okay, another fucking game being axed that people were probably going to be pretty excited about. Deus Ex is a pretty popular series. Embracer Group is just a really shitty company. I mean, they bought all these studios a while ago, like the Embracer Group, and I'm not Embracer Group, Free Radical, and they just like don't know what to do. They just shut them down. They spent too much money on fucking Lord of the Rings IPs and shit, and they're just scrambling to save some money. Same thing with Xbox, really. They bought all this shit for billions of dollars, and now they're like, oh shit, we gotta save some pennies here and there, so let's lay off almost 2,000 fucking employees. It's unbelievable. It's actually unfucking believable. And finally, for the news today, a limited edition Shovel Knight Switch Joy-Con controller has been revealed. Their pre-orders are now live on Yacht Game Club's website. Both of them are going to be there's actually 2 different versions. Each you can pre-order both for $165 together, or about, I guess, $70 separately. They're only available for a limited time. The one is a yellow and blue that has the like the different food icons from the game on the front and back, with Shovel King and Shovel Knight on the back. I apologize. And then the other one is a green and red controller with the Spectre Knight and the Doctor Knight, the medieval Doctor Knight. I'm not sure what their names are, but yeah, they actually look pretty cool. The designs were actually made by Captain Alex Designs, who makes some custom controllers. So if you want to check those out, those are available in a limited quantity right now. All right, let's move on to the final part of the show, which is what's coming soon. All right, Sony has revealed, or PlayStation has revealed, the new MLB The Show 24 is coming out. On PlayStation, it's going to be full price. But on Xbox, it's coming the Xbox Game Pass, which is pretty crazy. So if you want to play the game at no extra cost, you can actually play it on Xbox Game Pass, which is kind of interesting. But yeah, the game is coming around on March 19th. The cover athlete has been revealed, and the cover athlete is, drum roll please, Vladimir Guerrero Jr. He is of the Toronto Blue Jays, and his father was actually the main athlete on MLB 06 on the PS2 and PSP, which is pretty cool. So yeah, now that the franchise has featured both father and son over the years, there's going to be a gameplay trailer coming out soon, but pre-orders are now open for $70 on the PS5, $60 on the PS4. The standard edition is going to include 5 The Show packs and 5,000 stubs to get you started in the Diamond Dynasty. So yeah, they'll be talking about like a collector's edition and whatever else on the 6th of February, which is coming up this week. If you want to check that out, once again, the game is coming to Xbox Game Pass. So if you have Xbox Game Pass, maybe pick it up there. It's very crazy that this is like a PlayStation IP. This is like a PlayStation studio, and they're selling the game for such a high price to their own audience while giving the game away for no extra cost on Xbox Game Pass. Kind of crazy. All right, Celeste celebrates its 6th anniversary, and they put out a free 3D spin-off of the game called Celeste 64 Fragments of the Mountain. It's about a 30-minute romp that you can download on itch.io right now if you so desire. In a Twitter post, they said, relive the magic of the Celeste Mountain alongside Madeline in this small, heartfelt 3D platformer, created in a week-ish by the Celeste team to celebrate the game's 6th anniversary. Maybe this was made for like a game jam, I don't know. But it's pretty impressive that they got this all working and done in such a short amount of time. People are kind of complaining like, hey, I want to play this on Switch, I want to play this on PlayStation, I want to play this on Xbox, but you can only play it on PC at this point if you download the game. Now, the game, I believe, is for free, so it's not like that big of a deal. I also don't think that the game is going to be like a really tough thing to run on your computer. If you have a low-end computer, I'm sure you'll be able to finish it off, or play it, I should say. Callus, the one and only Just Callus, actually recently finished the game 100%. Seems like he had a good time with it. Let's see what he said on the game tracker here. He says, Callus, this is a quote from Callus, the one and only. Very nice of the devs to give us this awesome game for free to celebrate the anniversary. Took a while to get used to the controls, and even then it was still very challenging. It was difficult finding the right perspective to do some trickier jumps. This game almost doesn't work in the 3D setting. I almost gave up on some bonus levels, especially the last one. It was brutal, but I'm glad it was short. I was able to find the 26 strawberries and had to look up the rest. 3.5 out of 5. So, there you go. Take that with what you will. All right. The indie puzzle game called A Little to the Left is finally coming to PlayStation 5 and PS4 very soon. If you don't know what this game is, it's like an organization kind of game where you just kind of organize your cupboards and stuff like that to put things away, and sometimes a mischievous cat will try and knock something over or knock something out of place. A Little to the Left will be available on the 15th of February for PlayStation, Xbox Game Pass, and PC, which I believe it's already available on PC anyway, so it doesn't even matter. And it's also available on Switch right now if you don't know. The game is going to cost around $15 if you want to check that out. I'm sure it'll have a pretty simple trophy list if you're a trophy hunter. There you go. Okay, so Planet Zoo is officially coming to the PS5 in March. This game has been on PC for quite a while. I don't know if it also was on Xbox too. But Planet Zoo is officially coming to console on the PS5 on March 26th. So essentially, this is it's a management game where you build your park, you try and keep your animals happy and whatever, and you try and keep PETA happy as well, or else they'll come and protest your park. The game. I know that Doug, a streamer that I watch, plays it a lot. It seems like a pretty nice management game. Looks like they got some cool stuff in there as well. So if you want to check that out, that is going to be coming to the PS5 March 26th for about $50. It's a theme park simulation game. There's going to be a deluxe edition for $60, which will include a pygmy hippo, a Komodo dragon, and a Thompson gazelle. And there's a ultimate edition for $120 that includes everything, as well as a season pass, granting you access to the 14 future DLC packs that'll be coming to the game. There you go. The CDI-inspired game called Arzette, the Jewel of Faramore, is coming to Switch next month. There is also going to be a physical release as well from Limited Run Games, which is kind of crazy once I get to that. But if you don't know what this game is, it's inspired by the Zelda CDI games. It's a side-scrolling game with some weird paint-inspired drawings of characters and animations. It seems like it's going to be a little bit challenging at some points with some platforming and some enemy placement. But it's got that charm of what you expect from a CDI game. It also seems to have some inspiration from the Mario elevator game, Hotel Mario game as well, mixed in there, if you are interested in that. The game will be available pretty much across platforms on the... I don't think there's... Is there not a release date? They said pre-orders available on February 2nd for the limited run version. The game is going to be available digitally on February 14th, which is Valentine's Day. The limited run version of the game, if you buy it, you can get the physical separately, but if you get the collector's edition, it comes with a retro-inspired Switch and PC controller that looks like the CDI controller. It comes with a two LP original soundtrack, and there is a shirt as well, a graphic tee. Those will all be on sale in the future. Pretty cool, pretty interesting. If you want to check that out, it comes out February 14th once again. It's going to be available for about $15. The CDI Switch controller set will be available for about $40 on its own, etc., etc. The pre-orders are live now, and the stuff won't be delivered until March, so you have a little bit of time if you want to check that out. Taxi Life, a driving simulator. I talked about this a little while ago. Got a new gameplay trailer or whatever, story trailer, whatever you want to say. Essentially, you arrive in Barcelona with nothing but a car and a dream, and you start your journey as a taxi driver from there. Fresh start, and you start opening your empire, your taxi empire. You need to follow the rules of the road, deal with impatient tourists, and changing weather along with rush hour as well. You need to adapt your routes to avoid traffic jams and accidents, and most of all, ensure that your clients are pleased with your service and you earn the best rating that you can, along with generous tips. The game, I mean, say what you want about simulation games. This one looks pretty cool. This one, I mean, not cool, but pretty interesting. The setting of Barcelona is something that's kind of foreign to me, so that'd be kind of cool. And the game itself just kind of looks really good. Like, the graphics look good, the visual design looks good. Unlike Crazy Taxi, you know, you're not trying to like bash through like streets and stuff like in cars. So yeah, I think that this is going to be a pretty cool game. You can pre-order it now if you want to, I suppose. I believe this game is also going to be on Xbox Game Pass, if I'm not mistaken. Maybe they didn't confirm that. But it does, I mean, it's got a March 2024 release, so we'll see in the future. Resident Evil 4 Gold Edition is getting a physical release only in Europe at this point. The Gold Edition is just an inclusion of both Separate Ways and the base game, along with a bonus DLC pack. It's going to be about $70 if you want to get that, so it's the same price as the regular thingamajiggy. The Gold Edition will launch February 9th, with a physical version being available later in March. The Gold Edition will bundle together Leon and Ashley's tale, along with Ada's mission in Separate Ways, along with a bonus item from the Deluxe Edition as well. Right now, it's only in Europe, like I said, so maybe it'll be coming to the U.S. in the coming months as well. I'll let you guys know. A game called Open Roads, which was coming to Xbox Game Pass, got a bit of a delay. It gets about a 1 month delay. So instead of releasing this coming month, it's going to release in March 28th. In a statement, they said they need to ensure polish and a most unpolished experience for players. So the basic stuff. Yeah, it seems like this is like a kind of like that Road 96 game where you play as a character journeying across the country or whatever, and you know kind of learn about the history and some mysteries, I guess, of the areas. It looks pretty good. So yeah, instead of it coming out in February, it's coming out in March. If you want to check that out, get Xbox Game Pass. And Venba is getting some DLC. If you don't know what Venba is, it's the game where you kind of make dishes in the style of like an old Indian woman. I thought it was fine. I thought it needed more to it. And what do you know? Some DLC is coming out. A developer has teased the upcoming DLC on Twitter and TikTok, revealing that fans have been, well, they've been asking to make recipes whenever they want, so you can cook up any recipe from the game. And then also there's going to be 12 new recipes covered in the new DLC as well, which seems pretty good. It's coming to all platforms, of course, so you don't have to wait here or there. If you want to check that out, that'll be available in the near future. All right, PlayStation Plus Essential games for February have been announced, and they are, as you already know, Foam Stars, coming to both PS4 and PS5, Roller Drome, coming to both PS4 and PS5, and Steel Rising, only coming to PS5, which is kind of weird. Foam Stars, don't know anything about it yet, but it seems weird and wacky, and I'm glad that I'm not going to have to pay a full price for that. Roller Drome is a really good game. It's a very unique game as well, where you're on roller skates and you have guns. Think about it. That's a game I need to finish still. And then Steel Rising is a game that I kind of ran out of love for, I guess. It just became a bit stale and repetitive. It's a Souls-like game. It's got some really nice charm to it, some interesting mechanics. But I would say about 75% of the way through the game, I just got so bored. And I was like, I'm done with this. So there you go. And also, they revealed that Spider-Man 2 is getting a trial for the PS Plus Premium tier next week as well. So if you want to check that out for a trial, there you go. And then here are 2 games confirmed leaving in February from Xbox Game Pass. We have on February 15th, both Galactic Civilizations 3 and Opus: Echo of Starsong are both leaving the service on those days. So there you go. Okay, let's go ahead and conclude this episode with What's That Song? If you give me the song name and the game that's from, I will give you a super reaction in the Discord, or I'll give you a nice hearty congratulations and a heart in the YouTube comments. So if you know what the song is, let me know in the comments below or on the Discord the name of the song and the game that's from. Let's see what the song is for today right now. Okay, thank you so much to everyone who came around and listened to this episode of Ferret 64. I do appreciate that, as always. If you want to check me out on Twitch, I stream on Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturdays. I might be adding some Wednesday streams mixed in there as well, just because of the Ferret Cafe podcast that I'm doing. It takes up a Thursday slot, so I might be adding some extra streams in there to balance that out. Ferret Cafe is the live podcast. We record around 8 p.m. on every other Thursday, and it's a pretty fun, chill time. If you want to check that out, come swing by live or check out the VOD of it the following Thursday. I also do the Film Freaks podcast with a Z at the end. The most recent episode that was released is about Her from 2013. The next episode is about Fight Club featuring Just Callus. So if you want to check that out, that'll be available this coming Friday. Anything else, it's all at YemmytheFerret, whether it be YouTube VODs, YemmytheFerret VODs, Twitter, and etc. Thank you so much, y'all. I very much appreciate you listening. I'm YemmytheFerret, and I'm out of here. Have a good week. Bye-bye. The Ferret 64 podcast is owned and edited by YemmytheFerret. The song Nightshade, used in the intro and outro, is owned by Adhesive Wombat. Small sound clips during the podcast were made by YemmytheFerret. News sources include NintendoLife.com, PushSquare.com, and PureXbox.com. All opinions video game related are my own. Thank you for listening.